Halloween, the name and the holiday season, needs no introduction for NRI diaspora living in US and Canada. But for the benefit of everyone who is watching this video who don't know what Halloween is, here is a quick starter. At the end of October, it's a festival season, especially in USA, where children gets dressed in these spooky, nice little orange costumes. Kind of our fancy dress competition that we used to have in schools here in India. So it's typically a holiday period for a week or two, and children, primarily children, have fun during this Halloween season. It is celebrated on October 31st, and for the moment, let's understand it as some sort of a fancy dress competition, just to keep it simple for the moment. Now, coming to my non-Indian audience watching from Europe, if you're wondering why I'm talking about Halloween, there is something very interesting that would unfold. It's basically about thousands of years of shared culture and heritage that both India and Europe has in context of Halloween. So without any further delay, let's get started on understanding the ancient Indo-European history with respect to Halloween. Let us go to Europe 3,500 years back. That's approximately 1500 to 1200 BCE. And we are talking about the local native Europeans of those times, called as Celts. Look, the Celts were a collection of tribes across Europe with a significant presence in Ireland, thriving around 1200 BCE to early medieval period. Known for their art, mythology, and warrior culture, they inhabited areas spanning current-day Ireland, Britain, France, and beyond, predominantly the Western Europe. Their society was marked by skilled metalworkers, and for their oral traditions in Ireland, they profoundly influenced the language, the culture, ultimately merging with the Christian traditions after the Christian expansion from the Roman Empire towards all of Europe. And with the arrival of Christianity in few centuries, the Celtic identity as such got digested into the larger Christian identity. So Celts basically are the native people of Europe, and our focus is especially about the Celts that lived in Ireland 3,500 years ago. The Celtic religion was a polytheistic religion. It is primarily about nature worship like earth, sky, sacred groves, springs, worshipping trees, mountains, so on and so forth. It is a very rooted culture into the nature. These old men dressed in long white robes, they are called as Druids. They are the priests of the Celtic religion, or maybe I should say Celtic culture. Druids led religious practices, held festivals, conducted sacrifices, so on and so forth. The most important thing which really fascinated me is Celtic culture emphasized on oral traditions. Just like Indian culture, which is predominantly oral in nature, Celtic culture is also oral in nature. They have a lot of oral traditions, heroic tales, intricate art, blending with spirituality, deeply with their daily life intertwined with nature. And particularly winter as a season is a matter of life and death, because there will not be even a single leaf on a tree, even today in Western Europe, from the period of November till January. So since winter is of such significance for the Celtic community, they celebrated a festival welcoming winter, and that festival is called as Samhain. Despite this spelling sounding Samhain, it's actually pronounced Samhain. So what is Samhain? Samhain marked the end of the harvest and start of the winter, like I just said. It is believed that, basically Celtic people believed that it is the time when the ancestor spirits roamed the earth. Basically, Samhain was a festival for honoring ancestors in the Celtic tradition, plus welcoming the winter with the summer harvest. The Celts believed that the boundary between the dead world and the living world is thinned, allowing the spirits of their loved ones to visit physically their place on earth. So families prepared feasts, set places at the tables for their ancestors, left offerings to welcome and honor them during the sacred time. So let us briefly try to understand how this ancient Celtic festival of Samhain looked like. As I just said, it is the time when the world of the dead comes close to the world that we are physically living in now. So the Celts believed that the spirits of their ancestors roamed the earth, and at the same time there could be evil spirits that might also roam the earth, and to scare off these evil spirits, they used to carve these turnips in some really spooky faces to scare the evil spirits, and these worked as kind of effigies to scare the evil spirits. And this ancient tradition of Celts to scare the evil spirits with this spooky faces carved in the turnip, today, over thousands of years, transposed transposed into carving it on the pumpkins. The typical Halloween pumpkin what you see. This is the origin of it. आजकल हम घर के बाहर बुरी नजर उतारने के लिए जो डालता है ना वैसे ही ये लोग करते थे. మనం ఇంటి ముందు దిష్టి గుమ్మడికాయ వేలాడదీస్తాం కదా అదే విధంగా వీళ్ళు కూడా సుమారు 3500 సంవత్సరాల క్రితం చేసేవారు. And that's the origin of your spooky little Halloween pumpkin. And also during this period Celts used to prepare something called as soul cakes in the name of the dead ancestors as an honor to them. And these soul cakes are offered as a tradition during this festival of Samhain. It is basically a special food item for the ancestors. And then, like I said, ancestors' veneration is an integral part of Samhain. And then Celts on these days of Samhain, they wore disguises or costumes often made from animal skin to hide from the evil spirits and confuse those spirits or even scare them with these weird looking costumes. And this is the Celtic belief. And this aspect of Celts disguising in all these animal skins and weird looking costumes got transposed into what kids wear on the day of Halloween. Remember the fancy dress kind of stuff that I said in the beginning? So wearing those costumes on Halloween is a very fun aspect for kids. They really love that. And the origin of that tradition is coming in from the Celtic belief of disguising themselves in weird looking animal skins to scare these evil spirits. And other rituals on Samhain is bonfires. Large communal bonfires were lit to honor the gods and drive away the evil spirits and spend time with the spirits of their loved ones or the loved ancestors. And then ritualistic dining, offering of crops and animals were made to appease deities, ancestors and the spirits, ensuring protection during the harsh winter. Like I said, it is a matter of life and death if you have to live out there in cold 3500 years ago in the Western European region. So whatever they harvested in summer is their lifeline for the next 3 to 4 months. So it's a very important event, Samhain, for the Celtic community. Now it must be a bit confusing that I started with Halloween and then jumping back and forth with some Celtic traditions and Halloween. How are these two connected? I will just explain that in a few seconds. But before that, let us also understand that there is another festival, or rather was a festival, in the Holy Roman Empire. It was called as Parentalia. In character, it is exactly like Samhain. It is for venerating the ancestors in the Roman civilization. Now it's quite important for us to understand these two festivals, that ancient Europeans had these very significant festivals of worshipping their ancestors as a token of respect. And that's all what we need to understand. Samhain, Parentalia, and there could be many other such local ancestor veneration events that would have existed in ancient Europe. All this cultural diversity got completely wiped out when Christianity started spreading in Europe. Long story short, once Christianity was declared as the official state religion in the Roman Empire in the year 380 AD, all the local cultures and traditions of Europe were digested into Christianity, and a Christian variant of it took birth. So the Catholic Church, they could convert people superficially, but this culture of celebrating ancestors is ingrained into the local traditions. So your conversion is not complete. So what do? Here is what happened. There is a new festival that was conceived saying All Saints Day. That means that day you venerate all the saints or the great people who contributed to the spread of Christianity. Now, they became the ancestors for the followers of Christianity. All these local traditions of Samhain from Ireland or Parentalia from Rome, all this got digested into one single standard day of venerating ancestors. That's All Saints Day. And of course, the day that follows, which is November 2nd, is also celebrated as All Souls Day. But that's out of context for us. What I wanted to put forward is the moment we hear about Christianity, generally we think of it as a Western religion which belongs to Europe and US. But that's fundamentally incorrect. Christianity is not native to Europe. It is a Middle Eastern religion which got expanded to Europe. Europe, just like Bharat, also had their local traditions and cultures, and it is very rich and vivid. All that is standardized and wiped out with the expansion of Christianity. Am I against Christianity? Hell no. I am against destroying any culture in the name of God. Everyone has a right to their own culture, their own religion, the language, everything. And that should not be wiped out. Anyway, all that's for another day. So coming back to how these two ancestor festivals are merged into one, that became All Saints Day. And the evening before this day, that is 31st of October evening, became the Halloween. So altogether, 31st of October, 1st of November, and November 2nd, all these 3 days became the days to venerate the ancestors in Europe. And Halloween, as we know as a Celtic festival, has been Christianized. And like I said, it's for a simple reason. You cannot stop people from celebrating their festivals. So what do? do? You just put a label on top of it saying that this is now part of the wider Christian tradition. That's how it has happened. Read about the history of Halloween, All Saints Day and All Souls Day. Things will be a lot more clear for you. But for now, this is all what we need to know, and let's move on. Potatoes are one of the most important source of carbohydrates in the European geography. And unfortunately, in the year 1845 to 1852, there was a severe famine with the potato crops. And this famine led to death of scores of people and also immigration from Ireland to USA. Remember, the Irish people are the descendants of the Celts. So Samhain, or you Christianize it and call it as Halloween or All Saints Day, whatever it is. Ancestor veneration has been part of the Irish tradition. So the Irish people, when they immigrated to America in the year 1845 to 1852, they took this culture or tradition of Halloween with them. And that is how Halloween stepped into America. Once Halloween stepped into America, through 1-2 centuries, it got transformed into a different kind of a festival which is kid-centric. And then the Americas did what they are good at, commercialization. So that's how Halloween, a Celtic festival, originated in Europe, Christianized in Europe, commercialized in US, is what we know today that kids celebrate with those nice little spooky costumes. So that is a brief history of Halloween. I've taken too much of time explaining it because not many of our Indian people know about Halloween, and it is very important to understand the later part of this video. So that's in brief about Halloween.
Let's have a quick look at the astronomical significance of the Halloween. A quick refresher, we all know that because of the Earth's obliquity, seasons occur, and from October to February in the northern hemisphere, it is winter. And this October to November period is quite significant in the Indo-European cultures in terms of ancestor veneration. Till now we understood how Samhain or Parentalia or All Saints Day, there are multiple reasons or events where ancestors are venerated in Europe. Now let us switch to India. A very interesting pattern is that in India also, during this period, ancestor veneration is a very important practice. And from now on, this video will take a completely new, different turn that will start revealing certain mind-blowing cultural similarities between India and Europe. If we take a look at our Indian calendar, we have 6 seasons and Sharad Rutu or autumn that occurs between September to October. This period is quite significant. There are 2 events that occur in this season. One is Pitru Paksha and the other one is Deepavali. These 2 events are of our interest in the next couple of minutes. Pitru Paksha is a 16-day period that occurs generally in September-October period in the Ashwayuja Masam. It is a 16-day period in the Hindu lunar calendar dedicated to honoring ancestors through rituals and offerings. During this time, people perform Shraddh ceremonies to express gratitude and seek blessings from departed family members, believing it helps their souls achieve peace and bring prosperity to their descendants. You can already see it coming. The Celts of Ireland, some 3,500 years ago, they celebrated Samhain over a couple of days. And this October 31st of Samhain or Halloween is a recent phenomenon. Prior to that, they had a different calendar, the Celts, but the celestial significance is exactly the same. Start of the winter. And the cultural significance is also the same. Ancestors veneration. So you can already see the striking similarity between India and Ireland some 3,500 years ago. How the shared culture of ancestor veneration occurred in the same time of the year. Unfortunately, the current generation, most of them might not be aware of what's Pitru Paksha, and that is one of the main reasons why I chose to make this video. When we talk about Halloween or Samhain coming from Europe, it sounds so fascinating, and kids celebrating Halloween these days, that's so cool, right? But when we talk about Pitru Paksha, which is exactly the same ritual coming in from Bharat, I don't have to explain. A popular opinion would be such a regressive, orthodox, old traditions, right? This is the hypocrisy that we should laugh at ourselves, all the Indian people. Laugh at our stupidity, ignorance, and most importantly, the mental slavery that we still have. Anyway, I'll not ventilate, let's get going. So during Pitru Paksha, whom are we worshipping? The natural answer, based on what I just said, would be our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers. Correct? Well, the answer is only 50% correct. There are 3 important deities that are worshipped during Pitru Paksha. Number 1 is Vasu. Number 2, Aditya. Number 3, Rudra. All these three are the Vedic deities mentioned in Rig Veda. And these three deities, Vasu, Aditya and Rudra put together are called as Pitrudevataha or Pitrudevatas. As the name itself says, Pitru means patrilineal. Devata means a god or a demigod. So these three, Vasu, Rudra, Aditya, are revered as the ancestral gods. It sounds absolutely new, or many of us might have never heard of this concept. But what I'm just about to tell is the Vedic form of Hinduism, which most of us in popular discourse would have forgotten. Let us quickly understand who exactly are these Vasu, Aditya and Rudra. Starting with Vasus. The Vasus are elemental deities representing aspects of nature and cosmos, who are the material building blocks of this nature. And there are 8 of them. The names of the Devatas are like this: Dyaus for sky, Prithvi for earth, Vayu for wind, Agni for fire, Nakshatra for stars, Varuna for water, Surya for sun, Chandra for moon. So all these 8 deities put together are called as Ashtavasu. And these are nothing but the elements of nature and cosmos, as you can see. And a quick side note, remember this word or this Devata, Dyaus, representing sky. We'll talk about it in a couple of minutes. And then we have 12 Adityas. Adityas represent the personification of sun's position in each of the 12 months of a year. And the names of this 12 Adityas goes like this: Dhata for the sun position between March and April, Aryaman, April-May, Mitra, May-June, Varuna, June-July, Indra, July-August, Vivasvan, August-September, Pusha, September-October, Parjanya, October-November, Amshuman, November-December, Bhaga, December-Jan, Twastar, Jan-Feb, Vishnu, Feb-March. These 12 are the names of the 12 deities called as Adityas, which are ultimately just the positions of sun, but each position is deified and personified as a different Aditya. So there are 12 Adityas, and they represent 12 positions of the sun throughout the year. And then we have 11 Rudras. 11 Rudras represent the forces of the life and are linked to both destructive and healing aspects. It is basically something to do with our own body internally and certain metaphysical aspects as well. And the names of the 11 Rudras are Kalpa for dissolution, Vamadeva for beauty, Bhava for existence, Sadyojata for birth, Kapali for ascetic, Ahirbudhanya for depth, Manyu for wrath, Mahadev for divinity, Shiva for auspiciousness, Ritam for order, and Kala for time. So all these put together, the 11 Rudras, represent the bodily and the metaphysical aspects associated with one's life. So these deities, the 8 Vasus, the 12 Adityas, and the 11 Rudras are known to all of us, but in a different format. If you sum it up all, we have 31 deities. So often we hear about this 33 million gods in Hinduism. That's fundamentally incorrect. There are 33 gods, and 31 of them are on your screen, and the 2 Ashwini Devatas. But that's slightly out of context for us. So for now, these put together are the 31 gods called as Pitrudevatas. Now coming to the reason why these 3 Devatas are called as Pitrudevatas. Our biological ancestors, our great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, after their death, this is what the belief system as per the Vedic Hinduism. And the reason I'm explicitly saying Vedic Hinduism is, most of us are not aware of these very important traditions. And this is very, very central to our day-to-day lives. And you'll understand why. So our biological ancestors, once they departed this world, it is believed that everything related to them is dissolved into these 3 Vedic deities. The Ashtavasus for the elements of nature, the Dwadash Adityas, sun as the life-giving source, and 11 Rudras as the elements of human life. All these 3 Vedic deities reflect our biological ancestors who disseminated into nature at the end of their life. And Pitru Paksha is a period where we revere our biological ancestors, and also ultimately we are revering the Ashtavasus, Dwadash Adityas, and Ekadash Rudra. And this very ritual or tradition, whatever you want to call it as, reflects how deep are the human relations in Bharatiya Sampradaya. In my view, it is absolutely fine if you don't worship Shiva or Rama or Krishna or Shakti. All that is fine. It is very personal and to each their own. But in my view, Pitru Paksha is totally different. It is all about remembering the people who gave us the life, our ancestors. That's your grandfather, your great grandfather, and his father, and same way mothers as well. And if you're not showing gratitude towards the very people who gave you your life, your lineage, then what are you up to? What am I up to? Shame on you, shame on me, right? If we forget. And for those who are observing Pitru Paksha, great job, keep it going. Because our children learn from what we do, not what we say. And if we can't even afford to have one bowl of rice, one glass of water, and few minutes of gratitude once a year towards our ancestors, then what are we up to? I know that's quite heavy, but at the same time, it's necessary as well. So now let's flip to Samhain or the Halloween. Like I said, that period of the year, the October to November, when the autumn is setting in, there is a very interesting coincidence of the Celtic Samhain, now called Halloween, and Pitru Paksha that falls around the same period of the year, with similar philosophies underneath. It shows a nice cultural continuity between India and Europe. After all, the languages are also called as Indo-European family for a reason. And just to be very clear, I am not at all saying that Europe once followed Hinduism. That's absolute nonsense. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the cultural similarities are quite interesting and a deeper research is needed as to why the cultures, or rather the ancient cultures of Europe and India are pretty similar to each other. Again, when I'm talking about Europe, I am referring to pre-Christian Europe, because that is the actual Europe. There were local traditions, there were local customs, so on and so forth. So you get the point. So let's move on. I did not jump to make this video just because Halloween and Pitru Paksha are following the same period. As you can see here, Korea, Nepal, Mexico, Filipino, all these countries have their own local, native, ancestor veneration festivals happening in the same period, October-November. And this pattern is just mind-blowing. Why is that all these cultures are celebrating ancestor veneration in exactly the same period in a year? This question fascinated me, and that led to the creation of this short document. There is definitely a deeper historical and cultural significance behind all these cultures respecting their ancestors pretty much in the same time of the year. But I don't know what the reason is, and definitely I will not take any speculations. Let me conclude this video with a small fascinating fact that underscores the ancient Indo-European cultural connections. While we are talking about the Astavasus and the Pitru Devatas, I underscored this name, right? Dyaus. So Dyaus is one of the 8 Vasus who is a Pitru Devata, and the full name in Sanskritam is called as Dyaush Pitru. Read the name again, Dyaush Pitru. In the Pitru Devatas, Dyaush Pitru as a Vasu is a deity for sky, or in simple English you can call it as sky god. Dyaush Pitru is a sky god, and the same Dyaush Pitru is worshipped in the Greek civilization as Zeus Pater. Just look at the pronunciation, slightly transposed, and this Greek god was considered as the father of gods and humans. Zeus Pater, Dyaush Pitru, exactly the same. Don't take it for my word. You do your own reading and research in this direction, you'll get to know the truth. Now, even we take the worst calculation of the Rigvedic dates from Max Muller, which is 1500 BC. That is way before the Greek civilization. So it is definitely the Vedic deity of Dyaush Pitru was worshipped by the Greeks as Zeus Pater. And it's not just with the Greeks. Romans as well picked up, and they gave slightly different name, kind of a fused name of Zeus Pater as Jupiter. And the Roman god Jupiter is an exact variant of Zeus Pater of the Greeks, and this Roman god was considered as the lord of sky and thunder. You can see again the similarities. In the Vedic deity Dyaush Pitru is the deity for sky, and the Roman god Jupiter is also considered as the lord of sky and thunder. There has been a lot of scholarly and academic research that happened in this direction, and if you're interested, read for yourself. This is a very fascinating subject. The connections between Dyaush Pitru, Zeus Pater, and Jupiter. Now let me flip back to our itihasas. 99% of us, the common people like you and me, never heard of Dyaush Pitru, right? At the same time, 99% of us, the common people, know Dyaush Pitru very closely and very much. Take a guess who it could be. Okay, it is none other than the great Bhishmacharya. It is one of these Pitru Devatas, one of these Ashtavasus, Dyaush Pitru, who took the incarnation of Bhishmacharya. But for that, I have to go to the slokas of Mahabharata and all. That will be for another day, not today, because the video will be completely out of context if I go there. But it's fascinating to see how we know Dyaush Pitru, but with a different name. And it is also fascinating to see how the ancient Europe and ancient India are connected linguistically, culturally, historically, and on many other levels. If you remember a couple of minutes back, I said that the Sharad Ritu is the time when in Bharat people worship their ancestors or Pitru Devatas. And I mentioned about Pitru Paksha. Then what about Deepavali? What is the connection between Pitru Devatas and Deepavali? Here it is. तुला संस्थे सहस्रांशो प्रदोषे भूतदर्शयोः उल्कहस्ता नराकुर्युः पितॄणां मार्गदर्शनम. These are the words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna to Yudhishthira, explaining on what Yudhishthira need to do on Deepavali. So these are literally the words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna coming from Skanda Puranam. And here is what Krishna says. When the sun is in Tula Rasi, on the nights of Chaturdashi and Amavasya, people should celebrate this festival of showing the path unto the Pitru Devatas with ulkas in their hands. To break it down into simple words, the philosophy of Celts in Ireland during Samhain, that the spirits of ancestors would visit earth to visit their loved ones, is exactly the same as our Pitru Paksha, where the belief is the spirits of the ancestors or the Pitru Devatas come down to earth to visit their loved ones. And in the evening of Deepavali, all the Pitru Devatas will go back to their respective locations in the spiritual realm. And while they are going back, as a token of respect, as a token of gratitude for everything what they gave us, people should show them light towards the south by holding these torches called as ulkas. It's nothing but a green stem with an oiled wick, holding it and showing them the light towards the south. And this is what Bhagavan Sri Krishna mentioned as the ritual that everyone should do on Deepavali. And this is the basis for the crackers that we are bursting on the day of Deepavali. Now all the nonsensical quote-unquote eco-friendly arguments of crackerless Diwali can take a hike. Let's all enjoy bursting crackers on the day of Diwali to our heart's content. And all those half-educated intellectuals talking about Chinese invented gunpowder, first stop commenting from a Chinese made mobile phone and then give lectures about Deepavali. Anyway, all that garbage aside, coming back to the rituals. So yes, we all need to enjoy crackers on Diwali, but at the same time, let's not forget that the ritual originated as a respect towards ancestors, and that's how Deepavali and Pitru Devatas are connected. As a closing remark, the bottom line, what I want to say is, let's celebrate Halloween. It's very nice, it's cool for kids. And when we are ready to celebrate a culture which is thousands of kilometers away from home, somewhere originated in Ireland some 3,500 years ago, then why should we not celebrate Pitru Paksha, which is exactly same, where we need to respect our own great-grandfathers as well. So, celebrate Halloween if you like to, but please do not forget Pitru Paksha. And as always, thanks for watching. But there is little more that I want to say. Continue watching for a minute more. I launched my own content platform called projectshivoham.com, where I'll be putting out all this research-based content in form of blogs and videos on projectshivoham.com. Fundamentally, I don't like to ask people to subscribe to my channel. I never ask that on YouTube. But this one is different. I'm trying to be independent of the big tech. Let me give you a simple example and you'll understand. Last US elections, the entire Twitter was far left. And this US elections, it is completely opposite. It is far right. So we are living at the mercy of the big tech. I want to change that for myself within my perimeter. For that, I launched projectshivoham.com website. Go to that portal, and if you feel that I'm talking sense and if you like the content that I'm creating, just subscribe on projectshivoham.com. It's just about giving your email ID and hit subscribe. You will get alerts from me directly whenever I post content on that platform. It's absolutely free. It is ad free. It is nonsense free. It is garbage free. You will have purely research oriented content to the best of my abilities posted on projectshivoham.com. Especially people living in US and Canada. If you like this video on Halloween and the cultural similarities that we have with Pitru Paksha, share it with your friends in US and Canada. And for people in India, if you're wondering why children are celebrating Halloween in schools, I think we need to teach them about Pitru Paksha as well. So it is important that you share this with the parents as well, so that we are well informed. Again, I'm saying, let's celebrate Halloween, but just let's not forget Pitru Paksha. With that, I'll close it. Thanks a lot for watching. Do go to projectshivoham.com and hit subscribe if you feel that I'm talking sense. And as always, thanks for watching.